The giant ship appeared without warning. One moment Earth's skies were normal. The next, a vessel larger than anything humans had ever built hung above North America. It blocked the sun over several states, casting a shadow that sent people into panic. Lieutenant Ella Martinez stood on the deck of the USS Horizon, squinting up at the impossible object. The naval carrier, once the pride of the American fleet, looked like a bath toy compared to the alien craft. Around her, sailors stared in silent awe. Some prayed, others took photos with shaking hands. "Lieutenant Martinez to the bridge," the announcement cut through the shocked silence. Immediately, Ella ran through the corridors, her heart pounding in her chest. She had trained for combat, for storms, for technical failures, but not for this. No one had. Admiral Patel was surrounded by officers when she arrived. His normally calm face showed strain as he looked up from a communications display. "Martinez," he said, "they're asking for you." "Sir?" "The aliens. They broadcast a message in every language on Earth. They want representatives from each continent. Your name was on their list." Ella felt her stomach drop. "Why me?" "They didn't explain. But a helicopter is coming for you and the others they named. You leave in 20 minutes. In those 20 minutes, Ella called her parents, put on her dress uniform, and tried to calm the storm in her mind. What did aliens want with a 28-year-old lieutenant whose biggest achievement was improving radar systems? The helicopter carried 7 humans, one from each continent. A professor from Brazil, a farmer from Nigeria, a politician from Germany, a doctor from China, a teacher from Australia, an engineer from Russia, and Ella. They barely spoke during the flight, each lost in their own thoughts. The helicopter didn't fly to the alien ship. Instead, it landed at a military base where a strange craft waited. It had no visible engines or wings, just a smooth oval shape that seemed to drink in the light around it. A door opened in its side. No one came out. "I guess we go in," said the German politician, standing up first. The inside of the craft was plain and white with 7 seats that were almost, but not quite, designed for humans. The door closed behind them and they felt movement, though no sound came from any engine. 10 minutes later, they were aboard the massive alien ship. The aliens were not what Ella expected. No little green men or giant insects. Instead, they looked almost like tall, thin humans with skin in shades of blue and purple. Their eyes were larger, their fingers longer, and they moved with a strange grace that made humans look clumsy by comparison. "Welcome," said one in perfect English. "I am Zorax, arbiter of the Confederation Council. You stand before representatives of the 12 founding species of the Galactic Confederation." The chamber they stood in curved upward in a dome, with raised platforms where aliens of different shapes and sizes watched them. Some looked nearly human. Others were so strange that Ella's mind struggled to make sense of their forms. "We have observed Earth for 73 of your years," Zorax continued. "We delayed contact until you developed sufficient technology to understand your place in the galaxy." The Nigerian farmer stepped forward. "And what place is that?" A murmur ran through the watching aliens. Zorax's expression didn't change, but something like surprise showed in his eyes. "Earth is classified as a Class 9 Deathworld," he said. "One of only 31 such planets known to produce intelligent life." The Chinese doctor frowned. "Deathworld?" A different alien spoke, this one with red skin and small horns. "A planet with environmental conditions so harsh that evolution produces only the most resilient and dangerous life forms. Your gravity is crushing, your temperature range extreme. Your air is corrosive to most galactic life. Your planet experiences regular natural disasters, hosts countless venomous and predatory species, and is bombarded by radiation from your sun." Ella almost laughed. Earth seemed so normal to her, so safe compared to the emptiness of space. "And that makes us dangerous?" "Yes," said Zorax simply. "Species from Deathworlds are physically stronger, more aggressive and more adaptable than others. History shows you expand rapidly when given access to space travel. The Australian teacher spoke up. You make it sound like you're afraid of us. Caution is wise, Zorax replied. 27 Deathworld species before you achieved space travel. Their aggression nearly led to Galactic War before they formed their own alliance 3 centuries ago. Images appeared in the air before them. Strange aliens with armored bodies, massive jaws, extra limbs and other features clearly evolved for survival in harsh conditions. The Deathworld Alliance operates semi-independently within the Confederation, Zorax explained. They take on missions too dangerous for other species. They colonize planets no one else can survive on. They serve as our defenders when needed. And you want us to join them? Asked the Russian engineer. You must join them, said the horned alien. Confederation law does not permit unaligned Deathworld species to travel freely among the stars. You may join the Alliance or remain isolated to your solar system. The humans exchanged looks. Ella felt a weight settling on her shoulders. This was not first contact as portrayed in movies, not an exchange of knowledge or peaceful welcome. This was being told their very biology made them dangerous, that they would be quarantined unless they agreed to terms set by aliens they'd just met. You have 1 Earth year to decide, Zorax said. The Alliance will send representatives to assess your capabilities and explain what membership entails. At the end of that time, your world leaders must provide a unified answer. And if we say no, asked the Brazilian professor, then orbital barriers will be established around your solar system. You may develop as you wish within those boundaries, but may not expand beyond them. As they were escorted back to the transport vessel, Ella noticed how the alien guards kept their distance. They were being treated like dangerous animals, she realized, like tigers in a zoo that might escape if not carefully contained. They're afraid of us, she whispered to the German politician. That's why they want us in this alliance, to control us. He nodded slowly. Or because they need us. Why else create a special group for Deathworld species? Perhaps there are threats out there that only the strong can face. As they returned to Earth, Ella watched her blue planet grow larger in the viewing port. For the first time, she saw it, through alien eyes, a swirling ball of storms and shifting continents, of raging oceans and explosive volcanoes. A beautiful, terrible death world that had shaped humanity into something the galaxy both feared and needed. The world would never be the same after today, and humanity had 1 year to decide its place among the stars. 6 months passed since the aliens came. The world had changed. Nations that once fought each other now worked together. A single goal united them, to prepare for the arrival of the Deathworld Alliance. Commander Danny Ross stood at the landing pad in the New Mexico desert. The sun beat down on his neck as he checked his watch again. The aliens were late. Or maybe they were right on time by their standards. No one had told him how aliens counted minutes. Nervous? Asked General Clark, who stood beside him. No, sir, Ross lied. In truth, his stomach was in knots. 6 months of training, learning everything Earth scientists could figure out about alien biology and culture, and he still felt unprepared. Remember, you're representing all of humanity. These Alliance members will decide if we're worth adding to their club. Ross nodded. I understand the stakes, sir. A low hum filled the air. Ross looked up to see a dark shape cutting through the clouds. Unlike the massive Confederation ship that had appeared 6 months ago, this vessel was smaller, sleeker, built for speed, not to impress. It landed with barely a sound, settling on the concrete pad as lightly as a bird. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a door slid open in the side of the craft. 5 aliens emerged, each so different from the others, that Ross had to remind himself they all belonged to the same alliance. They moved with careful steps, adjusting to Earth's gravity. The first looked almost like a brown bear walking on 2 legs, but with 6 eyes arranged around its head. The second was tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to shift like smoke. The third resembled a giant praying mantis with arms that ended in delicate multi-jointed fingers. The fourth was short and stocky, with rock-like plates covering its body. The fifth walked on 4 legs with 2 arms folded across its chest, its skin a deep blue color. Ross stepped forward and raised his hand in the greeting he'd been taught. Welcome to Earth. I am Commander Danny Ross of the United Earth Space Force. The bear-like alien returned the gesture. I am Krill, combat master of the Braxian forces. Its voice was deep and rumbled like distant thunder. Each alien introduced itself. The smoke-skinned one was Vex, a strategy expert. The mantis-like creature was Taz, a scientist. The rock-plated one was Durek, an engineer. The blue four-legged one was Morla, the eldest and their leader. We come to assess your world and your species, Morla said. Its voice was surprisingly soft, almost musical. The next 6 months will determine if humans join our ranks. Ross led them to a building prepared for their visit. Inside, screens showed maps of Earth and data about human civilization. The aliens moved around the room, studying everything with careful eyes. Your planet is more varied than most Deathworlds, Taz noted, pointing at images of deserts, jungles, and ice caps. Usually, a planet has one primary challenge. Yours has many. Is that good? Ross asked. It explains much about humans, Krill said. You adapt quickly because you must face many threats, not just one. Vex, the strategy expert, turned from studying a screen showing Earth's nations. You fight among yourselves more than any Deathworld species we've encountered. Why waste energy on internal conflicts when the environment is already trying to kill you? Ross wasn't sure how to answer. How could he explain thousands of years of human history in a way aliens would understand? We're still learning to work together, he said finally. Morla made a sound that might have been a laugh. At least you're honest. Over the next few days, Ross took the aliens to military bases, disaster relief centers, and research stations around the world. They watched how humans trained to fight, how they responded to crises, and how they pushed the limits of what their bodies could endure. At each location, the aliens set up tests. They brought machines and devices that measured strength, speed, and reaction time. They created puzzles that had to be solved under pressure. They exposed volunteers to controlled fear situations to see how they responded. After a test in Canada where humans had to solve complex problems while in freezing water, Taz approached Ross. Your people are physically weaker than most Deathworld species, the insect-like alien said. But you compensate with unusual problem-solving abilities. Most interesting. Ross wasn't sure if that was a compliment. 2 weeks later, they were in the Sahara Desert. The testing facility was a series of domes connected by covered walkways. Outside, the temperature reached 120 degrees. A sandstorm hit without warning. The sky turned from blue to brown in minutes. Wind howled around the domes, shaking the structures. Ross was showing Vex and Durek a human training exercise when the emergency lights flashed red. Section 3 is damaged, a voice announced over the speakers. 2 alien visitors trapped. Ross didn't hesitate. Which ones? Taz and Morla. The connecting tunnel collapsed. They're cut off. Ross grabbed emergency gear from a wall locker. Oxygen masks, goggles, guide ropes. What are you doing? Vex asked. Going to get them. In that? Vex pointed toward the windows where nothing was visible but swirling sand. The storm will tear your skin off. Then I'll move fast, Ross said, pulling on the gear. To his surprise, Durek stepped forward. I will join you. My skin is harder than yours. Together, they stepped into the storm. The wind hit like a physical blow, sand stinging any exposed skin. Ross tied the guide rope to his waist, the other end secured inside the dome. Durek followed close behind. They fought through the blinding sand for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally, they reached the collapsed tunnel. Ross used his emergency override to open the sealed door. Inside, they found Taz trying to help Morla, who was lying on the floor. The elder alien's blue skin had turned pale gray. Our atmosphere suits malfunctioned, Taz explained. Morla is sensitive to your oxygen levels. Ross knelt beside the fallen alien. Can you walk? Morla's eyes blinked slowly. Not quickly. Then I'll carry you. Vex's voice came through Ross's communicator. The human will carry Morla? Impossible. The elder weighs twice what a human can lift. Ross ignored the comment. He handed his own oxygen mask to Morla. then lifted the alien onto his back. The weight was crushing, but Ross locked his knees and forced himself upright. "Guide rope," he gasped to Durek. "Don't lose it." The journey back was torture. Every step was a battle against the wind, the sand, and the weight on his back. Ross's lungs burned without his mask. His muscles screamed in protest, but he kept moving. When they finally reached the main dome, Ross collapsed as soon as medical staff took Morla from him. His vision darkened around the edges as he gasped for breath. Before he passed out, he saw the 5 aliens gathered around him, watching with what might have been surprise or might have been respect. Later, in the medical bay, Ross woke to find Morla sitting beside his bed. "You risked your life," the elder alien said, "for someone not of your species." Ross shrugged, wincing at the pain in his shoulders. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Morla said quietly. "They would not. Most Deathworld species prioritize their own survival above all. It is how we live on worlds that try to kill us. But humans..." The alien paused. "You are different in ways we did not expect." As Morla left, Ross wondered if that was a good thing, or a bad thing in the Alliance's eyes. And he wondered what their final test would be, because something in Morla's voice told him that the true challenge was still to come. All around the world, people argued about the choice. Join the Deathworld Alliance or stay isolated in the solar system. The debate filled every news channel, dinner conversation, and government meeting. With only 3 months left to decide, Earth remained divided. Dr. Susan Ford sat in her lab, studying the data the aliens had shared about Alliance species. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had been given access to limited biological information on the 27 species that made up the Alliance. It wasn't much, but it was enough to both amaze and worry her. She looked up as her assistant entered the room. "Dr. Ford, Commander Ross is here to see you." Ross looked tired when he walked in. The past 3 months of escorting the alien assessment team had left dark circles under his eyes. "How are our visitors?" Susan asked. "Hard to read. They keep testing us, but they don't share their conclusions." He dropped into a chair opposite her desk. "What have you found in their data?" Susan turned her computer screen so he could see it. "The Alliance species have technologies we won't develop for centuries on our own. Medical advances that could end most human diseases. Environmental engineering that could reverse climate change. But joining means military service. The Alliance takes on the most dangerous missions in the galaxy. They're the front line against threats the Confederation doesn't want to face directly." Ross nodded slowly. "Cannon fodder. Maybe. Or maybe they're honored warriors. It's hard to tell from just data files." Susan closed the screen. "We need more information before we can make this choice." "That's why I'm here," Ross said. "Lieutenant, Martinez has been invited to observe an Alliance training exercise. She asked for you to join her." Susan blinked in surprise. "Me? I'm not military. They specifically requested a scientist who understands their biology. You're the best we have." 2 days later, Susan and Lieutenant Ella Martinez boarded a shuttle to an Alliance base on Earth's moon. The ride was smooth and quick, using alien technology that made Earth's best rockets seem primitive. The base was unlike anything Susan had imagined. Different atmospheres, gravity levels, and environments were contained in connected domes. Some areas glowed with strange lights. Others were dark as caves. Some were filled with gases that would kill a human instantly. They were met by Taz, the insect-like alien from the assessment team. "You will observe from protected areas," it explained, leading them to a control room with viewing screens. "Our training involves conditions humans cannot survive." For hours, they watched as Alliance members from different species worked together in simulated combat and rescue operations. They moved through toxic environments, extreme temperatures, and radiation levels that would cook a human from the inside out. But what struck Susan most was how they protected each other. "They all have different weaknesses," she whispered to Martinez. "See how the Braxian shields the smaller Voltar from the acid spray? And how the Krell uses its heat resistance to clear a path for others? Martinez nodded. They complement each other. Each species fills in where others are vulnerable. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the base. Red lights flashed in the control room. What's happening? Martinez asked their guide. Taz's antennae quivered. This is not part of the exercise. There is a real emergency. On the screens, they saw that a micrometeorite had struck one of the training domes. The structure was losing pressure rapidly. Alliance members scrambled to evacuate, but several were trapped in a section where the doors had malfunctioned. Can't you override the doors? Susan asked. Not remotely. The impact damaged the control systems. Taz's voice remained calm, but its movements became more agitated. The trapped team includes members of 5 different species. Each requires different conditions to survive. Susan and Martinez exchanged looks. The aliens might not survive long enough for a rescue team to reach them. What about the emergency suits we saw earlier? Martinez suggested. The ones designed to work for multiple species? Taz turned all 4 of its eyes toward her. Those are in storage near your observation area. But a human could not withstand the radiation in the corridor to reach the trapped team. Martinez stood up straight. Let me try. I'm smaller than most of your species. I can move faster through the damaged sections. Taz seemed to consider this. The radiation would cause severe damage to your reproductive system, possibly other permanent harm. Martinez didn't hesitate. I understand. Let me help anyway. Susan watched as Martinez was fitted with protective gear and given a crash course in how to operate the emergency suits for different species. The gear would shield her from the worst effects, but not completely. On the screen, Susan watched Martinez navigate the damaged corridors, dragging the emergency suits behind her. When she reached the trapped aliens, she quickly helped each into the appropriate suit. Some were already unconscious. Others helped her with their fallen comrades. By the time all 5 aliens were safe, Martinez was staggering. Her radiation badge had turned black, indicating dangerous exposure. Susan rushed to meet her at the medical bay. Why did you do that? Susan asked as doctors treated Martinez. You didn't know those aliens. They're not even your species. Martinez managed a weak smile. Because it was the right thing to do. News of Martinez's actions spread quickly across Earth. The story of a human risking permanent harm to save alien lives changed the tone of the global debate. If humans could show such compassion for other species, perhaps joining the Alliance wasn't just about military service or technology. Perhaps it was about being part of something larger than humanity alone. A week later, while Martinez recovered, Earth received an urgent message from the Confederation Council. Another galactic power called the Hegemony had learned about Earth. This empire had a history of forcing primitive worlds to serve them or destroying those who refused. If Earth joined the Alliance, they would have protection. If they remained isolated, they would be vulnerable. The message didn't say it directly, but the implication was clear. The choice was no longer just about opportunity. It was about survival. World leaders called for an emergency global vote. Millions of polling stations across every nation. People cast their ballots on humanity's future. The results came in country by country, region by region. In the end, Earth's decision was made by a narrow margin. 52% in favor of joining the Alliance, 48% against. As the results were announced, Susan stood with Ross on the roof of her research building, looking up at the stars. Do you think we made the right choicing? She asked. Ross considered this. I think we made the only choice we could. Now, we have to make it the right one. 3 weeks later, the Alliance officially accepted Earth's application for membership. Humanity would have a 6-month probationary period before becoming full members. Earth would send representatives to Alliance headquarters to begin integration. Susan was surprised when she received the notification that she had been selected, along with Ross and Martinez, to lead the first human delegation. As she packed her few allowed possessions, she wondered what awaited them among the stars. Would humans find their place among these ancient Deathworld species? Or would they always be outsiders, the newest and most unusual members of a dangerous, Alliance? Whatever happened, Earth had taken its first real step into the galactic community. There was no going back now. The trip to Alliance headquarters took 3 weeks by their fastest ship. Susan, Ross, and Martinez spent most of that time studying. They learned about Alliance history, basic commands in the common trade language, and how to operate their environmental suits. These suits were their lifelines. Without them, humans could not survive in many parts of the headquarters. Alliance headquarters was not a planet. It was a massive space station, orbiting a neutron star. The radiation levels were deadly to most life forms, but the station used this radiation to power its systems. The headquarters had been built here precisely because it was so dangerous. Few enemies would risk attacking such a location. When they arrived, the human team stepped into the main docking area wearing their protective suits. Other Alliance species moved around them, many without any protection at all. Some had thick natural armor. Others had bodies that absorbed radiation as food. Compared to them, the humans looked fragile in their bulky suits. "The fragile newcomers have arrived," said a deep voice. Krill, the bear-like alien from the assessment team, approached them. "Welcome to your new home." Susan felt the gravity pulling at her body. Even with the suit's support systems, she felt heavier here. The artificial gravity was set to the Alliance standard, about 20% stronger than Earth's. "You will begin your training tomorrow," Krill told them. "For now, rest in your assigned quarters. They have been adjusted to Earth conditions." Their quarters were a small section of the station sealed off from the rest. Here they could remove their suits and breathe normally. The rooms were plain but comfortable, with strange furniture that had been modified to suit human bodies. "I never thought I'd be so happy to see a bed," Martinez said, sitting down with a sigh. The radiation treatment she had received after her rescue mission had healed most of the damage, but she still tired easily. "Get some sleep," Ross told them. "Tomorrow we prove that humans belong here." The next 6 months were the hardest of their lives. Each human was assigned to different areas based on their skills. Susan worked in the Biological Research Division, studying how other Deathworld species had adapted to survive in extreme conditions. She began developing modifications that might help humans better withstand harsh environments. Ross trained with Alliance military units. The physical requirements were beyond human limits, but he pushed himself anyway. During one exercise, the team had to cross a molten lava field carrying heavy equipment. The Krell warriors could walk directly on the hot surface. Ross had to find another way. He built a bridge using the equipment they were carrying, creating a path that not only he could use, but that made the crossing faster for everyone. The Krell commander had stared at him. "No one told us humans were creative problem solvers. That is, useful." Martinez served as a tactical officer on an Alliance patrol ship. Her radiation exposure had left her with an unexpected advantage. Her body now had higher tolerance for some types of radiation than most humans. Still, she struggled to keep up with species that could go days without sleep or survive explosive decompression. All 3 humans faced the same problem. The other Alliance members saw them as weak. Humans needed special suits, special food, special quarters. They couldn't lift as much, move as fast, or survive damage that other species shrugged off. "They think we're a waste of resources," Ross told Susan during one of their rare meetings. "I hear them talking when they think I don't understand their language." "We need to find ways to show our value," Susan replied. "Humans have strengths, 2 just different ones." Their chance came 4 months into their probation. An emergency signal reached headquarters from a Confederation research station. The station orbited a gas giant with crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere. It had been attacked by hegemony forces looking to steal advanced technology. The Alliance sent a response team. Martinez was aboard as a junior tactical officer. The situation was worse than expected. The station's structure was failing. Dozens of Confederation scientists were trapped inside, and the station held research data that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy if the hegemony got it. The Alliance captain called for volunteers to enter the station. The gravity and atmospheric pressure would make the mission extremely dangerous, even for Deathworld species. Martinez stepped forward. Humans are smaller and lighter than most Alliance species. The lower mass would give us an advantage in the failing gravity generators. The captain looked doubtful. Your protective suits would not withstand the pressure. Then modify them, Martinez suggested. Remove some of the radiation shielding to make room for pressure support. I can handle higher radiation levels. After debate, the captain agreed. Martinez led a small team into the failing station. The pressure was crushing, even with the modified suits. Every step was agony. But Martinez kept moving, guiding her team through the collapsing structure. They found the scientists huddled in a sealed lab. Many were injured. The research data was stored in crystalline matrices too large to move quickly. We'll need to split. Up, Martinez told her team. Half of us get the scientists out. The other half protect the data until transport arrives. As they worked, the station shuddered around them. Support beams crashed down. Walls buckled under the pressure. Martinez stayed with the data, sending the scientists out with the other team members. When the transport finally reached her position, she was the only one left. She had used pieces of her own suit to reinforce the failing room structure, exposing herself to both radiation and toxic atmosphere. The rescue team found her unconscious but alive, her body curled protectively around the data crystals. Back at headquarters, the Alliance High Command reviewed the mission. The data Martinez had protected revealed hegemony plans to attack Alliance worlds. Her actions had saved not only the Confederation scientists, but potentially millions of Alliance lives. As Martinez recovered in the medical bay, she received visitors, not just Susan and Ross, but Alliance members from a dozen different species. Krill came last, his massive form barely fitting through the door of the human medical room. The High Command has reached a decision, he told them. Humans are no longer considered probationary members. Ross straightened. We're being accepted as full members? No, Krill said. You are being accepted as equals. Later that day, the three humans were called before the Alliance Council. Morla, the eldest from the assessment team, spoke to them. We have observed humanity closely, the four-legged alien said. You are physically weaker than any Deathworld species we have encountered. Your bodies break easily. You require more protection than others. The humans stood silent, unsure where this was going. But, Morla continued, you possess other qualities of great value, creativity, adaptability, and something we did not expect to find in a Deathworld species, self-sacrifice for others, not of your kind. Morla moved closer to them. The Deathworld Alliance was formed because the galaxy feared our strength. Species like ours evolved to survive at any cost, but humans evolved a different kind of strength. You survived not just by being tough, but by working together, by protecting your weak, by valuing life itself, not just your own survival. The council chamber was silent as Morla finished speaking. The final test was not planned. The attack on the research station was real, but it showed us what humans truly are, and what you might help us become. Susan felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. They had found their place, not as the strongest warriors or the toughest survivors, but as something the Alliance needed. Even more, a Deathworld species that had not lost its heart. 1 year had passed since Earth officially joined the Deathworld Alliance. In that time, humans had begun to change the Alliance in ways no one expected. Before humans arrived, Alliance species focused on strength, endurance, and survival. Humans brought different priorities: cooperation, communication, and compassion. General Ross, promoted after the success of the first human delegation, established new mixed-species military units. Instead of grouping similar species together, he created teams where each member's strengths covered another's weaknesses. When a hegemony fleet attacked a Confederation colony world, these new units responded. Traditional tactics won't work, Ross told his commanders. We need to think differently. The hegemony expected a direct assault, as Alliance forces had always used before. Instead, Ross divided his forces. The Krell and Braxian heavy fighters drew the enemy's attention to one side of the planet. Meanwhile, smaller teams of humans and other agile species slipped behind enemy lines to disable their command ships. The battle ended with minimal losses on both sides. The hegemony retreated, but their ships and crews largely survived. Previous Alliance victories had often involved total destruction of the enemy. "You let them escape," said Krill, watching the hegemony ships jump to faster-than-light travel. "We stopped them without unnecessary deaths," Ross replied. "That's not weakness, it's efficiency." Krill was silent for a long moment. Perhaps humans do understand war, just differently than we do. In the research division, Dr. Ford's work changed how Alliance members approached hostile environments. Before humans joined, most species relied on permanent genetic modifications or heavy equipment to survive dangerous conditions. Susan developed a new approach, temporary adaptations that could be applied when needed and removed afterward. "We don't need to permanently change what we are," she explained to the Research Council. "We can temporarily become what we need to be for specific missions." Her team created nanomedicines that could temporarily enhance lung capacity for low oxygen environments, strengthen bones for high-gravity worlds, or protect skin from extreme temperatures. Unlike permanent changes, these adaptations could be adjusted for each mission. The old guard of scientists initially rejected her ideas. "This is human weakness," one Voltar researcher said. "True Deathworld species permanently adapt to overcome all obstacles." "But at what cost?" Susan asked. "You lose your original nature. There's strength in remaining adaptable, in being able to change and then change back." Captain Martinez commanded her own ship now, with a crew of mixed species including 10 other humans. Her vessel, the Earth Hope, was smaller than most Alliance warships but faster and more flexible. Martinez specialized in diplomatic missions to non-Deathworld species. Before humans joined, Alliance members rarely interacted with the wider Confederation except for military purposes. Their intimidating presence and aggressive reputation made other species uncomfortable. Martinez showed that Alliance members could be diplomats as well as warriors. "The galaxy doesn't just need our strength," she told her crew. "It needs our understanding. Every species evolved to solve different problems. We all have something to teach each other." When a dispute between two Confederation worlds threatened to erupt into war, the Confederation Council requested Alliance intervention. Normally, this meant a show of force to intimidate both sides into peace. Instead, Martinez proposed a different approach. Her mixed crew set up negotiations. The Earth Hope's diplomatic team included members from both Deathworld and non-Deathworld species. They helped both sides find common ground and develop solutions that benefited everyone. "This is not what we expected when we called for Alliance help," admitted one Confederation diplomat. "We thought you would simply threaten both sides until they backed down. That's how we used to do things," Martinez agreed. "We're learning there are many kinds of strength." 6 months later, Alliance headquarters hosted the first ever joint summit between the Deathworld Alliance and the Confederation Council. For centuries, the two groups had maintained an uneasy partnership. The Alliance handled dangerous missions and received resources and technology in return. But they had never truly worked together as equals. Martinez, Ross, and Susan sat with the human delegation as Arbiter Zorax addressed the gathering. "For generations, the galaxy has believed that species from harsh worlds must inevitably be harsh themselves," Zorax said. "The Deathworld Alliance was necessary but feared. With the addition of humanity, we have seen this assumption challenged." Morla stepped forward to speak for the Alliance. "Humans have taught us that survival does not always mean conquest. That adaptation does not always mean losing what you were. That strength can take many forms." The old alien turned to look directly at the 3 humans who had first come to Alliance headquarters. "When we assessed Earth, we expected to find warriors like ourselves. Instead, we found something more valuable. A Deathworld species that understands peace. You survived your harsh world not by becoming more brutal, but by learning to work together." Morla gestured to the gathered representatives from both the Alliance and the Confederation. "Today, we announce a new chapter. The Deathworld Alliance will be renamed the Galactic Resilience Coalition. Our mission will expand beyond combat to include restoration, negotiation, and cooperation across the stars." After the summit, Martinez found Ross and Susan on an observation deck, looking out at the neutron star that powered the station. Its deadly radiation glowed like a beacon against the darkness of space. "Did you ever think this would happen when we first joined?" Martinez asked. Ross shook his head. "I just wanted to prove humans belonged here. I never expected we would change the entire alliance." "Maybe that's why Earth is different from other death worlds," Susan suggested. "Our planet tried to kill us in so many different ways that we had to learn more than just toughness. We had to learn to adapt, to cooperate, to see problems from different angles. And now we're teaching the rest of the galaxy," Martinez said with a smile. Their conversation was interrupted by a young human lieutenant who approached with a data tablet. "Excuse me, Captain Martinez. We've received reports of a new hegemony movement near the outer colonies. And there's something else. A signal from an unexplored sector. It might be another Death World species reaching space for the first time." Martinez took the tablet, looking at the information. "Looks like our work is just beginning." Ross straightened, his uniform. "Then we'd better get to it. The galaxy needs what humanity has to offer." As they walked back to the command center, Susan noticed something new. The other Alliance species they passed didn't move aside or look down on the humans anymore. Instead, they nodded with respect. Some even offered the human greeting gesture that Ross had taught them. Earth had found its place among the stars. Not as the strongest or the toughest, but as the heart of something new. A coalition where the hardships of different worlds bred not just strength, but wisdom. The Death World Alliance had decided that Earth was not just another harsh planet producing warriors. Earth was the bridge between worlds of struggle and worlds of peace. And in that role, humanity had found its greatest purpose.